On January 9, 2010, a 350-meter cargo freighter named the Weld Central was traveling in a dense fog, gale-force winds, and heavy seas. At 9 p.m., the freighter collided with an oil tanker called the Fort Lupton, which was carrying 300 million liters of crude oil. The bow of the freighter was slightly damaged, but was in no risk of sinking. The oil tanker, however, sustained heavy damage to its midsection. It is leaking oil into the ocean and is in danger of sinking. The tanker position is at 36 degrees, 40 minutes north, longitude 123 degrees, 10 minutes west. Wind speeds at 35 knots from the northwest. Sea conditions, 5-meter waves. Vessel damage. Oil from both cargo freighter and the tanker was seen on the surface. The oil tanker was definitely sinking. The freighter was dead in the water, and the engine room flooding and rudder damage.
We are the scientists of the Monterey Bay Sanctuary, and we are seeking financial aid to help monitor and reduce the adverse effects of this oil spill.
The oil is no longer readily visible on the surface. It isn't gone. Scientists have found significant amounts on the sea floor, and the oil has already washed into the wetlands beaches and will likely persist for years. There are many adverse effects to many sea animals. Nearly half the dolphins studied were very ill. 17% of the dolphins were not expected to survive. Sea turtles, on the other hand, an average of nearly 100 sea turtles were found stranded annually in the oil area. Since the spill, each year roughly 500 sea turtles have been found stranded. Most were very endangered Kemp's Ridley sea turtles. It really messes with the food web as well. The oil's toxicity may have hit egg larval organisms immediately, diminishing or even wiping out those age classes. Without these generations, population dips and cascading food web effects may become evident in years ahead. It wasn't until 4 years after the 1989 Exxon Valdez oil disaster that the herring population collapsed. 20 years later, they still haven't recovered. Recreational fishing from the Atchafalaya Delta to Mobile Bay was shut down from May to August, and state park closures dealt serious blow to the park's summer revenue. So when there's oil, you can't fish, people go hungry. It also affects birds. Oil causes birds' feathers to mat and separate, causing the bird to lose its buoyancy and the ability to regulate body temperature. Contact with the oil to their skin or face can cause skin lesions. Birds need to preen their feathers to keep themselves warm and dry, to remove parasites and keep their feathers in good shape. Birds may ingest oil while preening their feathers by eating contaminated food. Internal exposure to oil can lead to ulcers, pneumonia, liver damage, and other life-threatening conditions. Oil also impacts marine animals. Oil can cause chemical burns and irritation from direct contact, ulcers and internal bleeding if ingested, and it can emit toxic fumes that suffocate whales and dolphins when they're breathing. The spilled oil and toxic chemicals dispersants used by PP to break up the oil is potentially harming prey species deep underwater, if not killed outright.
There are many ways that we will monitor the long-term effects of what is happening in the sanctuary. We will use site characterization, which is detailed reports containing information on an area's biological and physical environments, history, and human use patterns. We will use vertical transects, which are columns of physical factors, to reveal changes due to currents, upwelling, and other things. And we will use horizontal transects, which are physical factors recorded at different depths, to reveal fish distributions and other things like that. We will also use monitoring, which is detecting changes in physical conditions, distribution, abundance, human actions, and natural events. These observations are taken at regular intervals using the previously mentioned devices to evaluate trends or perturbations. We will use the Geographic Information System, which is a newly developed tool that allows visual representation of how monitoring data relates to each other. So our vertical horizontal transects, along with maps of the oil distribution and currents, will help to define what exactly is going on at each stage. As of right now, here is the oil spill. Here's the oil tanker. The oil spill, due to prevailing winds, is heading this way and would miss almost the entirety of the sanctuary if not for the Davidson Current, which is bringing the oil right back there. This is also a problem for the watersheds that directly feed into human water source systems, specifically the Central Coast watershed right here where all of the oil is hitting.
This is also a problem for many animals, such as the sea otters, the seabirds, and the pinniped nests, as they're all primarily down along this coast.
Where the oil is hitting immediately and will be most affected by the initial oil spill.